are joined now by former Minnesota Twins, Toronto Blue Jays, and Milwaukee Brewers third baseman Corey Koskie. Corey, how are you this morning?
Good, thank you.
Good. Concussions have become a more prevalent part of the game over the past few years, but Canadian players seem to have struggled with them more than others. Yourself, Justin Morneau, Jason Bay. Do you think that stems from playing hockey or anything like that growing up and concussions that were undiagnosed? Do you think it's just been a coincidence?
I don't know. I don't see. There's quite a concussions are. I see. There's more than Canadian players kind of dealing with concussions at the major league level.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Matheny had to retire. Ryan Friel is a guy, as you're well aware of, who committed suicide, and they sent his brain in, and they found that he suffered from CTE. So there's a lot of guys kind of struggling with it, as you kind of see more and more guys come out with it. So I don't know if it's just a Canadian problem, but there's I know quite a few American players also have had struggle with concussions, and Joe Mauer. So there's concussion is more than a Canadian player issue. It's basically a sport issue. The thing with it is, I don't know where the data shows that there's a lot of American players that are dealing with this too,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of guys have struggled with it, and we're working on some stuff to potentially do with Ryan Friel last year with the suicide that he committed.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, I spent a lot of time with Joe through this, and there's guys. It might be more prevalent in Canada because we're talking about, but there's quite a few guys who dealt with it for a while in the U.S. here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like I said, I didn't mean to allude to say there was only a Canadian problem. It was just something that I've noticed that with the players, the three of you players, particularly from Canada, it just seemed like the effects lasted longer rather than coming back. And I know there have been American players that have had long-lasting effects as well. So I didn't mean to insinuate anything by asking that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No. Like I said, I think it's a sports issue. There's guys playing football, soccer. It's just, I'm on the front lines here. I'm talking with athletes who are soccer players who've lost their career. American-born guys that have been dealing with it for 2-3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I talk to a lot of guys, a lot of people, and I don't know if it's an epidemic or why there's such a difference, because the people that even on the youth sports level, the kids that, I get a lot of phone calls from parents, and it just seems that these symptoms are lasting longer and are more drastic than 6, 7, 8 years ago. And one of the things that they point out is maybe there's just more education, maybe there's just more sensitivity to the issue, but these kids that I dealing with, these kids are messed up. And no matter if it happened 5, 6, 7 years ago or now, it's just there's a lot of people dealing with stuff. So I have no idea what's going on here.
Do you have any lingering effects from the concussion you had suffered? I know that was something that was difficult for you, after it had happened, but now all these years later, are there still some effects there, or has that kind of gone away a little bit?
I think it's gone away. The thing with it, when you go through a concussion, at some point, it's not like you deal with it, like, for example, you blow your knee, you got a hurt knee, or you have a pulled calf muscle, and it's completely different than normal life. And this is my calf muscle, or no, this is my knee. You just know. The one thing with the concussion and the symptoms that you deal with a concussion, at some point you probably felt like this before. You've had headaches before in your life. Right. You felt dizzy before in your life. You felt nauseated before in your life. You felt lightheaded before in your life. You haven't ate for a while. You're not drinking water. You feel a little lightheaded. You've been out in the sun too long. Like the stuff that you feel in a concussion, you have felt before in your life. And it kind of comes and goes depending on blood sugar levels and all that stuff. And that's the most difficult thing about a concussion, is that's why we kind of minimize it, is because you have felt at some point like that before in your life. So I think that's one of the biggest things, with the toughest things with concussions, is it's not bam, right there. Like, you hurt your knee and you can't run. When your knee's still better, you can run. So there's a complete difference between a hurt knee and a healthy knee.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that you haven't felt before. Concussion, it's a very gray area between concussion symptoms and real life symptoms. Just like I said, blood sugar, overtired, nauseated, dizzy. So that's what the difficult part is.
Mm. Hopping into a little bit of baseball now. What were your reactions watching Justin Morneau, former Twin, come back to Minnesota for the home run derby on Tuesday? Did you see that?
Yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting. Kind of came back here with a different hat on.
Right.
Really. So it's great to see that he's having a good year and he's able to kind of resurrect himself a little bit in Colorado.
Mm-hmm. There were 3 seasons in the Major League level. You stole 10 bases or more for the Twins. You don't have to be fast to be a good base runner. Can you explain to our listeners what makes someone a good base runner? I think oftentimes, you hear that a lot on broadcasts about being a good base runner. I think sometimes people associate speed with being a good base runner, but what makes someone a good base runner, whether they're fast or not?
Well, number one is their aggressiveness and being able to read a situation. Because a typical catcher in a major league level can throw the ball from catch to second base in under 2 seconds. So the catcher is between 1/8 and 2, and then the pitcher based on his time to the plate. So pitchers going between it can be anywhere from 1 second to 1/3, 1/4, 1/5. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of bases. So a combination is anywhere between 3.5 and 2.8 seconds. Mm-hmm. So from the point that the pitcher makes his release to home, and by the time the catcher catches him, throws it down to second base. Mm-hmm. So good base runners know counts, know situations, know what to look at. Because as a base runner, I would rather steal on a curveball or an off-speed pitch because that'll give me a little longer, mm-hmm. To get down. But so obviously, off-speed pitch doesn't get to home plate as quick as a fastball.
Right.
So knowing situations, picking your situation to run, kind of getting people off guard. Because that one year I had 27 stolen bases. I'm not typically known as a fast guy, mm-hmm. but TK would pick these spots and give me the green light to go in situations and when he felt that I could steal that base. Mm-hmm. So you're trying to get guys off guard, trying to pick your situations, trying to pick your spots, looking for off-speed curveball counts in which you could have that little bit of edge. Because fast guys, they can be fast, mm-hmm. but it doesn't matter how fast you are, it's who gets to second base quicker. Mm-hmm. So if I had good jumps, so I would be leading. I'd have walking leads, so I would be a step and a half already into my jump by the time the guy released the ball. Where a fast guy could be standing there and depending too much on his speed would get bad jumps, and he would get thrown out of the second base because he had a bad jump. Mm-hmm. So it's all fractions of sections, seconds mm-hmm. that add up over time. So it's better get from point A to point B as quick as possible. Mm-hmm. And a lot of guys in a running race, but beat me by a good part. But it's about getting jumps, about reading positions, about knowing when to go, when to run, when to hold back, knowing about taking advantage of certain situations, knowing that a catcher, okay, when he tipples his butt, he throws an off-speed pitch. I'm looking for something down in the dirt so I can get a good jump and get that stolen base. Mm-hmm. And getting people off guard, not knowing when, not seeing this as a situation in which they're probably not looking for me to steal, and so knowing the counts and doing stuff like that. And that's just the base stealing component of it. The actual base running is, looking for situations in which you can go first to third, knowing where your outfielders are, knowing that, okay, getting on base, looking for the outfielders, looking for where they're playing, and say, okay, here's my left field, here's my right field, here's my center field. Okay, I know where they're playing, so the guy hits the ball, and you're able to go in contact because you know that the center fielder was playing straight up, and the ball was hit kind of over the second baseman's head, and he's going to run to the gap. So as the center fielder is run into his left, you know that he's going to make that play, and he's going to have to turn and pivot because he's a right-handed thrower and try to get you at third base. For a left-handed thrower, it's a little easier for him to grab the ball and then to stop and go to third base to try to get you on a first and third. And so that's like all the stuff kind of plays into scenarios in which you can kind of take advantage of the situation, you know, hitting doubles, hitting bloops, and kind of going hard the whole way and looking for, like you said, looking for situations in which you can get a right-handed center fielder, left-handed left fielder, so knowing their arm strength, knowing all that stuff, and knowing where you can kind of take advantage of, knowing where you can kind of go for the extra base, all plays into a, you know, kind of quote-unquote good base running.
You know, you were part of like a rebirth of baseball in Minnesota. You know, part of a group with Torrey Hunter, A.J. Pierzynski, Jock Jones. Do you see the Twins trying to establish that once again with young players? They've got Brian Dozier, Oswaldo Garcia, some very good young players like Miguel, Sano, Byron Buxton, Alex Meyer coming up. Do you see the Twins heading in that direction again, where they're going to get back into that winning sort of baseball with a young group?
I don't know. You know, they got a ways to go. The one thing that made us unique compared to every other team or any other kind of scenario is that when we came up as a unit. We all played together at the minor league level. And so we pretty much all played Double-A together. We all played Triple-A together. We all of us played at the lower level together. So there was a lot of history that we had throughout the minor leagues. These guys coming up, it seems that, you know, there's good young players, but they're kind of spotted throughout. So we came up with like a core group. So there were 6, 7 of us where these guys are kind of spot. You got one guy here, this guy just got dropped, he's got here. So I'm not saying it won't be, but the uniqueness of us is that we all came up together and we just kind of came into and were able to come into as a group and you know, really mold with like the Eddie Guardados, the LaTroy Hawkins, and so it was a little different.
Yeah, I just got a question I have to ask you. It was a funny story. When you signed with Toronto, I'd gone up to a game at the Rogers Center, and about third or fourth inning, I went out into the concession area and all that, where they had, you know, jerseys, hats, and I was going to ask, see if they had a T-shirt jersey of yours or anything like that. So I'm looking over the items; they're all hanging up. I don't see anything. So the guy that's working the stand, I asked him, you know, do you have any Koskies? And he asked who that was, and I said, Corey Koskie, the third baseman. You know, he's from Canada, and he said, no, I don't think we have anything like that. I was just wondering. I mean, it's just kind of a funny story. Obviously, you had nothing to do with it, but I mean, did you think the Blue Jays missed the boat on that one? I mean, when they have the one Canadian on the team and you're not selling any jerseys or anything like that of yours up there, I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, well, you know, I had my issues with the Blue Jays, and I loved Oakville. I loved being up there, but the whole button and all that stuff there's just a Canadian mentality, and I don't know why it is or where it came from. It's just different. You know, I don't know if it's just one of those situations that they just, I don't know if they didn't seem that they weren't excited. It's just, well, no big deal. Who cares? It's a Canadian. Yeah, I got worn out too by Canadian fans, and it was different. I would have thought it would have been a different experience going back for kind of a homecoming kind of deal, because that's one of the reasons I signed up for Toronto. Is because I watched the Blue Jays. I love the Blue Jays. I want to go back and play in front of Canada and play in Canada and kind of do all that stuff. Not what I thought it would be like. So for me, not really welcome back with open arms. It was weird. It was different, and I had a more people Milwaukee were more welcoming and wanting of me than the people of Toronto. And Minnesota, the same thing with Minnesota. It was, you know, they loved me, and it was more of a welcoming, and they were just so excited that I was back, and it felt like they were rooting for me, and they wanted me to do well in Milwaukee and Toronto, Milwaukee and Minnesota, and I went to Toronto. It was more of a feeling that they were hoping that I would do bad. And that was kind of a different feeling.
Yeah, that's very odd to me. That I can't believe that you actually had a negative experience with that. I mean, Twins fans, when you went to Toronto, we were very upset that we were going to lose you as a player. You would have think that being a Canadian, because obviously I know it's a little bit different, but Brett Laurie is from from British Columbia, and he goes in there and he's a superstar in Toronto. So that's strange to me.
Yeah. I don't know if it's the fact that he came up and I signed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one thing with it is every article that was written about me in Toronto, I found out about this later.
Mm-hmm.
When I kind of left and they kind of talked about it, said every article it said Corey Koskie, who signed for X amount of dollars in U.S. And it was really weird. And Laurie, he came up and he came up kind of as a rookie. And so I was assigned and I signed for some pretty good money in Toronto, and it was just weird. It's just like that's one of the things that I talked as I left. One of the reporters told me from Toronto, I said, Corey, the one thing I'm just absolutely amazed is they never said Corey Koskie did this, Corey Koskie did this. It was always Corey Koskie, who signed for this, who signed for this, who signed for this. It was interesting. Matt Stairs too had a great experience.
Yeah,
up there.
Matt Stairs was loved up there.
Yeah, Matt loved it. And the thing with it is, Matt signed for a lower amount of money. He was kind of at the end of his career, and he just kind of squeaked out that year. And he just wanted to play Toronto.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It was it's like they're mad at me for signing for so much, or I don't know. It wasn't worth it, or it was just weird. It was just weird.
That is, I'm literally like taken aback listening to this because I thought that would have been something that everyone would have loved that happened. The contract you signed, you'd earned with the play that you had in Minnesota. So I don't understand why that was an issue.
Yeah, I don't know. You see that? I don't know if that was the mentality that they don't think it. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. It is what it is. And the thing with it is, I had another offer with the Dodgers for significantly more money, and I was like, you know what? Let's just get this deal done with the Blue Jays because I want to go back there.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, I just got one last question here for you. Speaking of Toronto, they've put together a solid first half. Do you think they have what it takes to reach October for the first time since 1993 here this year?
Who knows? Baseball's a funny game. It boils down to pitching and defense when you kind of running down that stretch.
Mm-hmm.
So if the guys throw a strike and they catch the ball behind them, they got a pretty good chance. But if the guys kind of break down, because bats are going to go up and down,
right?
Offensively and defensively. Offensively, that's going to be inconsistent. It is what it is. But the thing that's going to have to carry them is a pitching and defense because that needs to stay consistent.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Corey Koskie, thanks for taking a few minutes to talk with us today. I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.